Hi friend, and welcome back to Dirt Road Relics. If you're new here, I'm Julie, the owner and creator. I am participating in another Maker's Box challenge. This July Maker's Box kind of hit me in the feels. Back in 2020, my mom passed away, and I found myself seeing blue jays everywhere. And then I think about my mom, and it just kind of stuck with me throughout the last 6 years that every time I'd see a blue jay, it would warm my heart, bring back a memory, kind of give me a little bit of peace of mind that she's still with me. So this month's Maker's Box had all kinds of blue jays and bluebirds in it, and it made it so much fun to create with. So I hope you enjoy my projects as much as I enjoyed making them, and I can't wait for you to see them. So I'm going to show you the products. This month's July Maker's Box was such a joy to open. Inside are Roy Cycle's Bluebird and Company and Aviary Archives Masterboard decoupage papers, the Painted Photographer Rice Papers Postmark Blue and Bohemian Bluebird, DIY Paint in Bohemian Blue and Gravel Road, Fusion Mineral Paint in Liberty Blue and Chateau, Sweet Pickins Milk Paint in Providence, and the Midsummer Bird Song Digital Press. Blue jays have become such a meaningful part of my Dirt Road Relics brand and are woven into so many of my graphics. So this collection felt like it was just made for me. I couldn't wait to start creating. For my first project, I wanted to create a simple little shelf sitter that could brighten any corner of your home. I painted this vintage salt shaker with Fusion Mineral Paint in Chateau. Then I used the adorable floral napkin that Sonnet tucked into this month's box as a special little bonus. I love using the water tear method because it helps the image blend so naturally into the piece. To finish it off, I added a few blue florals and blueberries for just the right touch. It's a sweet little project that captures everything I loved about this month's Maker's Box.
For project number 2, I upcycled this little vintage tin using one of the Midsummer Birdsong digital press designs. One of my favorite things about these printable papers is that you don't have to use the entire sheet on one project. I was able to use just a portion of the design here, knowing the rest can be saved for several more creations.
Before applying the paper, I painted the tin with Fusion Mineral Paint in Chateau as my base coat. That lighter color really helps the image stand out. For the lid, I used Fusion Mineral Paint in Liberty Blue, then lightly layered Sweet Pickens Milk Paint in Providence over the top to soften the finish and create a beautiful aged texture that gives the piece even more vintage character. Here's a little trick that I use all the time. If you come up short when wrapping a project, don't panic. Just tear another piece from the same design and blend it in. The water tear method creates such soft edges that once it's sealed, it's really hard to tell where one piece ends and the next begins. It's a great way to get the most out of every sheet. After I got it all painted, I used dark wax on it just to add a little bit more texture to and make it a little more vintage looking. I decided to leave the wooden knob natural because I love mixing paint finishes with raw wood. The finished piece is both pretty and practical. You could use it to hold craft supplies, desk accessories, tea bags, or simply style it on a shelf. It's amazing how a little paint, beautiful artwork, and a thrifted find can become something completely new. For my third project, I decided to give this thrifted kitchen scale a whole new personality. It wasn't especially old, but it was bright yellow and the original graphics just weren't my style. I knew it had great bones though. I started with Sweet Pickens Extra Bond to help the milk paint adhere and to encourage that beautiful chippy crackle finish that I love. Then I mixed Kent Blue and Navy Blues milk paint together to create the perfect weathered denim color. Once the paint had dried, with the help of a heat gun, the crackling developed. I added dark wax to settle into all those tiny cracks and details. It's one of my favorite steps because it really brings the texture to life and gives the piece that time-worn vintage character. Every crack and every little imperfection tells the story of the transformation. To finish the scale, I replaced the original face with one of the Midsummer Birdsong digital press images. The Bluebird was an easy choice for me. It ties in beautifully with the rest of this month's collection and fits perfectly with my style. What started as a bright yellow thrift store find is now a piece I will proudly display in my home. That's what I love most about upcycling, seeing the potential in something ordinary and turning it into something that feels uniquely your own.
I'd love to know, when you're out thrifting, do you see pieces like this and imagine what they could become? Or do you see them just as they are? I think that's one of my favorite parts of creating, is finding something that's been overlooked and giving it a second chance to become something beautiful again. For my fourth project, I used Connie's Bohemian Bluebird rice paper, and it immediately reminded me of a pair of drumsticks I'd thrifted over a year ago. The day I found them, I remember thinking they would be so fun to laser engrave on someday. But I never quite knew what I wanted to put on them, so they patiently waited on my shelf until this maker's box inspired exactly the right project. For the container, I upcycled a vintage file box by turning it on its end and opening the top to create a unique vessel for the arrangement. I painted the front with fusion mineral paint and chateau so the beautiful rice paper would really stand out. Then I added my flowers in shades of blue and yellow that perfectly complemented the artwork and tied the whole piece together. To finish the project, I finally put those drumsticks in my laser engraver and engraved the words, "Music gives wings to the soul." It felt like the perfect finishing touch after I completed the arrangement. I sent Connie a picture to show her how it turned out. She shared that the Bohemian Bluebird paper was inspired by a trip she took to Nashville. Then she said something that really stuck with me. Everywhere I go and everything I see, sooner or later shows up in my art. I just love that thought because I think that's exactly what creativity is all about. For my fifth and final project for this video, I wanted to finish with one of my favorite thrift store finds, a vintage rolling pin. These are such common pieces to come across, but they're also one of my favorite things to decorate with. Whether they're tucked into a basket, displayed on a shelf, or added to a seasonal vignette, they bring so much warmth and character to a space. I painted the handles with DIY paint in Bohemian Blue, giving them 2 coats before lightly wet distressing the finish for a soft, time-worn look. Then I applied the Bluebird & Company decoupage paper from Upcycled. I chose not to paint the center or the underneath white first because I actually wanted the natural wood grain to show through. Since decoupage paper is thinner than rice paper, it allows that beautiful wood texture to become part of the design. To finish everything off, I added a coat of dark wax to bring out the details and give the rolling pin a warm vintage patina. It's a simple project, but sometimes those are my favorites. I know this won't be the last time you see these beautiful papers, I'll be creating with them all week long and adding pieces to my booth. I hope today's projects inspire you to see a little more potential in the treasures waiting at your local thrift store. Before I go, I just want to say a heartfelt thank you to Sonnet for putting together another incredible Maker's Box, and to all of the talented creatives who share their inspiration each month. It's such a joy to be part of this community, and I always leave with new ideas and a full creative heart. Out of all the projects I shared today, I think the vintage scale is my favorite. It'll be finding a home right in my kitchen counter with a little floral arrangement. So don't be surprised if it pops up in a future short or photo. I hope you've enjoyed today's projects as much as I enjoyed creating them. If you did, I'd love it if you'd give this video a thumbs up, share it with a crafty friend, and subscribe if you haven't already. Your support truly means the world to me, and it helps Dirt Road Relics continue to grow. Until next time, friends, keep finding joy in the journey.